Well, my friend out in New Mexico, Mike Miera, taught me everything I needed to know about living high up in the wild mountains of New Mexico. That's where we lived once upon a time in the wild, wild west. I was a gringo from New York, and I didn't know nothing about living in the woods except I was a Boy Scout in New York, so Camp Sawanoy with Dave Berg would put in his Mad magazine, The Lighter Side of. But my friend Mike Miera out in New Mexico, up in the mountains, the Manzanos, he grew up in Albuquerque, down on the old town where his Romero Street is named after his grandfather. And his mother would tell him stories when they would go to church as a boy on 4th Street in Albuquerque, New Mexico, how when she was a young girl, they would drive a horse and carriage to church. And in this one corner, there's a big old oak tree, which Mike always would see when he was a boy, and his mother would point to it, and she would say, when she was a girl, they hanged 2 rounders there, and they left them up there for a few weeks. And Mike uses the word rounders, and all these stories I got is from my friend Mike Miera, and we're writing a book. So this is kind of a audio book part of the story. And this story, so Mike used the word rounders. Mike said he always would think about them every time, pictured them, rounders, way back when he was a boy. When he was a boy going to church. But this other story I was going to tell you doesn't have rounders in it per se, but it's about the legend of Captain Billy. Now, Captain Billy was a TV show Mike would see when he was a boy, like in 1965, around there, 1965, maybe 1966, maybe 1967, I don't know. And Captain Billy, Mike was even on the TV show, he told me recently, as a boy. He got to, and Captain Billy saw him coming, and Captain Billy said, here kid, you hand out the pizza rolls. Mike had a silver tray, and he handed out he served the pizza rolls to all the other kids. So he was a star. My friend Mike Miera was a star. Mike Dews, he called himself, and the Dews Brothers in Reno, Nevada, and also with the Gaylord and Holiday Band in Detroit in the 1980s. But those are other stories. This story has to do with Captain Billy. And when I first went out to New Mexico, there were other Easterners, shall we say, living up in the mountains of New Mexico, up in the Manzanos, the wild, cold mountains, cold. That's what Mike, one day he borrowed Leon's Little Feat album, and he came over and he said, come on over. And we went over to Tall Paul's house and listened to, which was the old rock adobe houses up in the mountains, and we listened to Little Feat, cold, I'm freezing. I love that song, that freezing cold day up in the mountains, me and Mike just kind of sticking together. We didn't have much to eat. We have to go in the woods to get firewood to keep warm. So we were kind of cold. We were cold. But I like how little Mike borrowed Leon. So Mike told me his mother brought him up to the mountains, and she kind of abandoned him because he was a wild colonial boy from Albuquerque, New Mexico. A weird kid, he said, and Leon befriended him. Leon was from Spur, Texas, and he was a great musician too. And Mike and Leon had a band along with David Red Truck Yeaman from Martinsville, Virginia. So they all had some strange accents and mystical stories when I got there, and it was cold mountains and coyotes and cold, and Mike let me stay in his shed. One night it was real cold down in the Arroyo kind of over there. And I'm Barney from New York, so the Bronx, so what do I know? So Mike taught me walking in the woods and all. He showed me everything. He told me there's 3 things you need to know up in the mountains. 1, Brusavia a la leña. That means an armload of wood. You got an armload of wood and keep warm. Second thing is, por favor, donde está mi café? That means, please, where's my coffee? Which is definitely, you need that up in the mountains. And Mike never speak Spanish, but he learned those words. And the third one we can never remember. But I remember that they had a box of his mother's stuffed photographs and things, and Mike on a pony when he was a boy. In fact, I will put that picture of the pony, of Mike on the pony, on 4th Street for the illustration of this here story about Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the legend of Captain Billy. And Mike's mother's box up in the mountains, and we would go visit his mother down in Old Town, where she lived on an apartment or whatever, and she made us scrambled eggs with green chili, and that cured my cold. I remember that. We were just cold hippie Billy boys, shall we say, from up in the mountains. My friend Mike Miera, I called him Palomino Palomine from an old cowboy movie, Randolph Scott. And we would hitchhike, and I even carved it on the trestle bridge in Tijeras, New Mexico, where Molly's Bar is. That's where my sister got married, and I was the best man. And the cement plant is where David Bowie's spaceship was in The Man Who Fell to Earth. Yes, sirree, Bob. That was his spaceship. And Max Mercantile was this store right at the bottom there on the highway. And it was called Max Merc. And it was an old-fashioned New Mexico store, like in the movie. There's an old lady's mercantile store which David Bowie goes to. He's the man who fell to earth, by the way. And so that's a very interesting movie to watch. And my friend David Red Truck Yeaman worked in the Brotherhood of Life bookstore in Albuquerque at the time, 1976, shall we say. And David Bowie came in one day and bought 7 books off of David Red Truck Yeaman. And David told me, David Bowie was just here. Because I would go down sometime from the mountain, and that was really great, a mystical bookstore kind of thing. Because we're like, up in the mountains, we would have campfires and wild times. And David had a song called Wild Mountain Meadow. And Mike, one time, the trees were all falling on him. So we got down to town. So anyway, David Bowie, the man who fell to earth. So up in the mountains, in Tijeras Canyon, and me and Mike would hitchhike all over because we were poor hippie Billy boys, shall we say. So now, up there in the mountains, Mike would tell us stories, because he grew up in Albuquerque, whereas me and Leon and David and others, my sister, and Don, her husband, and her future husband, he had a yellow Mustang, pretty wild days, and there was Rabbit and Injun from South Carolina, and they knew Marshall Tucker, Doug Gray. They were good friends with Doug Gray and Marshall Tucker, and that was the legend. Marshall Tucker was going to come up there one time, way back when they had that song, Can't You See? So this story Mike would always mention. He said, when I was a boy, there was a Captain Billy TV show, and he would lament, and he would say, Captain Billy got shot right on TV. And we were like, man, that's a crazy story, Captain Billy, and he gets shot right on TV. So that was the legend I heard all my life from Mike. And Mike's great-grandfather was Bernard Miera, who made the first map of New Mexico. He was the captain of the cavalry of the Pecos and Santa Fe. And the King of Spain needed a map, so he was the guy to go to, and he made the map. And he also carved Laredo and Santos. And he led the expedition in 1776, the Dominguez Escalante expedition from Santa Fe to Monterey, California. And on their way, they went through Utah. So basically, they discovered Utah. And they named a river called the Labertino de Miera, the Labyrinth of Miera on the Rio de Dolores. So that had to be some really treacherous crossings. And Father Dominguez, or Escalante, wrote a diary, which is a famous diary of Utah, and it says that Captain Miera was a pain in the prat. That's basically what they said. So my friend Mike Miera, he was a tough hombre, and he always led the expeditions when we went up in the mountains and such. And he told this story about Captain Billy. I'll sing a song about Captain Billy now. I'll sing you a true song of Billy the Kid, sing of the desperate deeds that he did way out in New Mexico a long time ago, when the man's only friend was his old 44. Boom, 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 boom. Actually, that's Ry Cooter singing an old folk song, maybe, and my friend David Red Truck would sing that too. So I actually have that song, which I should link to this link, once I get this link onto the computer, as they say, YouTube. Hello, YouTube, and hello, Mike. I'm telling this story, if you don't mind, of Captain Billy, and Mike would tell it 10 times better, so I'll have to get him to tell it. But he's in New Mexico, in the Pecos, by the way. A small world, you know. But I'm in Florida, so I have to tell the story about Captain Billy. And Captain Billy was a TV show. Mike said he couldn't believe that Captain Billy was shot because he was sleeping with some guy's wife. So the guy came in and shot him right on TV. But not while Mike was handing out the pizza rolls, that's for sure. So that's the whole story, basically. But Mike said he couldn't understand it. They were just sleeping together. Why would he shoot them? And Mike remembers, he said, oh yeah, Captain Billy with that sailor's cap he had and that doggone mustache. So, and Mike would go to Socorro, New Mexico, and they had the best dang chili cheeseburgers, he said, in the state of New Mexico. And that's where his father Gilbert Miera came, and some old lady came over and she said, oh, you were looking about your father? He lived in Carthage, New Mexico, which is no longer there, but maybe it's on the map. But she said, oh yeah, Gilbert Miera, he was a Greek guy. So Mike said his father looked like Robert Mitchum. So I sent Mike all these movies of Robert Mitchum. One is called Thunder Road, which Bruce Springsteen wrote a song, Thunder Road, just from the movie poster. He didn't see the movie. But my friend Mike likes that movie, and he wrote a song about the movie, from the movie line, which Robert Mitchum says, which is, Catch Me If You Can. So that's Mike's song, which he has to write. He hasn't written it yet, though. But he did write the Erica Viking song for Erica Viking on Coyote 102.5 FM, which she likes a lot, and she wants Mike to come and sing it on her radio show in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that's my story of Captain Billy and my friend Mike Miera, and he got to hand out the pizza rolls. Well, Well, to me, that's similar to my friend Eddie Lenahan in the Bronx. His sister got to point to the cream-filled center of the Twinkie on the actual Bozo TV clown show, Bozo the Clown TV show, and we watched it in the Bronx on the black and white TV. We go, holy smokes, look at that! Eddie's sister, she gets to point to the cream-filled center, and I loved those Twinkies. The cream-filled center was the greatest, and Eddie's Lenahan's sister gets to point to it on the Bozo show? Oh, no, I'm sorry. She got to stir the Bosco. Holy cow. Eddie Lenahan's sister got to stir the Bosco on Bozo. Man, that's pretty good. Because one thing is the greatest thing is Bosco. You pump it into the milk and you stir it. And then you get to lick the spoon of the chocolate on it. It's kind of like Cocoa Marsh. Not Cocoa Marsh, I don't know. We always had Nestle's Quick, so I never got to actually have Bosco. Maybe once, I'm not sure. I was deprived as a boy in the Bronx. No Bosco, no Bonanza. Well, what are you going to do? Top Cat, TC, I love TC, Top Cat. Hey, gee, Schnoops. Well, anyway, that's another story, and this story is about Captain Billy and my friend Mike Miera out in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Captain Billy got shot right on TV by a estranged husband, and they were just sleeping together. That's all, just sleeping, minding their own business, sleeping. I might get to hand out the pizza rolls. I'll sing you a true story of Captain Billy the Kid. Sing of the desperate deeds that he did way out in New Mexico a long time ago. And my friend Mike Miera got to hand out the pizza roll. And thank you. That's the story of Captain Billy by Barney for Mike Miera in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And signing off. Bye-bye.